What do I say? Hi, welcome to Close to Home Saturday Sampler block for the intermediate for September of 2020. This month, we're going to be working on the Dresden Plate. In the past, we've always done the Dresden with pointed petals, and this time we're going to try something new, and we're going to round the edges of our petals. So pretty much everything else is the same, except the way we're going to finish it, okay? So in your cutting kit, you're going to have 5 colors. Those represent the petals: blue, plum, gold, green, and red. And the strip that you're given in your cut, you're going to cut that 4.5 inches high by the length of the strip. Don't cut the orange. I'll tell you what to do with that in a minute. And don't cut the background fabric. I'll show you what to do with that as well. Okay? So again, the first thing we want to do is to cut our pieces. These are our kit fabrics. I'm just going to put them all on top of each other and cut them 4.5 and get them ready for my Dresden Plate ruler, which I'll show you in a minute. So clean off one edge and put that edge on the 4.5 inch line on your ruler, which is right here, and go ahead and trim that to 4.5. We're just going to set this aside for now. Okay, let's go over some of the other items that we're going to need to make this block. One of them is our 12.5 inch square, and that's when we're all done, we're going to cut it down to size 12.5. The other very important ruler that we're going to be using is called the Dresden Plate ruler. Let's see if I can get a picture of that. And we always want to measure from the smallest end up. Okay, so we're going to cut our strips 4.5, and we're just going to use the bottom, and we're going to cut this shape, but the top is different, and I'll go over that in a second. To make our templates, we're going to need template plastic, but this isn't any ordinary template plastic. The ones we've done in the past blocks come in a foggy sheet, kind of an opaque sheet. This is regular template plastic. We don't want to use that. What we want to use is the heat-resistant template plastic. And we're going to be cutting our little petal shapes out of this so that we can press our curved edges for each of our petals using this as our template. Okay, so make sure it's heat resistant. This can hold up to heat up to 450 degrees. It's good for most irons. I've used it on the heavy duty irons and the very small irons, portable irons. Okay, you can use it for hot glue guns, paint, clay, very durable. And one sheet we have here is $5.82. Okay, so make sure it's heat resistant. So if you have the opaque one, do not use that one. And also, of course, we've done the Dresden in the past years, but now they've started packaging them slightly different. I have this one today. It's $7.89, but you can also get it with that point turner for when you want to pop out the points of the Dresdens that we've done in the past with the points on the petals. Okay, and this one's $8.39. So either of these will work, but it's the Dresden ruler that we're looking for. Okay, a couple other things you're going to need is 505 spray. You're going to need starch. I use Best Press, and you're also going to need a couple top stitching colors. You can use whichever you like. I think I used a dark blue for my applique, which is perfectly fine. A good pair of scissors. I believe I showed you these when we did the applique in February of this year, and of course a good ruler, an ironing pad, and we're ready to start. Okay, so the first thing we want to do is go ahead and cut our Dresdens. So we're going to cut our strip 4.5, and we're going to lay our tip of our small at the one end, and this should come up to my 4.5. So this side we're just going to clean off, and this side we're going to cut, and it'll be our first one, and then we're just going to keep rotating. And I am going to make 4 of these. Okay, so there's that one. Now, if you don't want to do all 5 fabrics at one time, you really don't have to. It's perfectly fine. So that's one set, and again, it's all 5 colors here. Rotate your ruler, and we're going to place it in the same angle. Again, the shortest point of the Dresden goes at the bottom, 4.5 across the top. And again, we're just going to make a couple more of these. And I need a total of 4 because I need 4 quarters of my Dresden to make a whole circle. And we're going to flip it around one more time. All right. All right, so the next thing I'm going to show you is how to make your template so that we can round off these corners. So on your directions, you're going to be getting a pattern. It looks like a petal, like a Dresden petal, and you're also going to be getting your circle for the center, which I'll go over in a minute. So what I like to do is spray a little bit of 505 on my paper. Whoops. And place your template plastic on your paper, okay? Right on top of it. The first cuts are really easy. What we're going to do is actually go back and use our Dresden ruler. Oh, it's sticky. And we're going to cut each side. Just follow the ruler right up through here and the bottom as well. Use your scissors to go right around the curve. You can get rid of the paper if you want. I'm going to keep the paper on just to show you that it is attached to the Mylar, but you can certainly pull the paper off. It's not going to hurt anything. It's not going to burn, but I'm going to hold on to the circle for a minute, and this is now our template. So what we're going to do is take each of these blades, we're going to flip them over, and we're going to put a little bit of best press right at the top. Just a little bit. We're going to lay our template at the base of our piece of fabric, and we're going to start, sit down. We're going to start pulling this in, just kind of making little tucks, little folds as we go. I'm going to go halfway and use a nice hot iron, and I'm just going to press half at a time. Okay, so that one's done, and I'll start at this side. You can keep going around if you want, just like this, holding them in place with your fingers and giving that. So put the iron right on the template plastic because it's Mylar and heat resistant. Okay, so once you have that, you have your curve. You want to trim away up to about 1/4 inch on the back. Okay, so there's one, and you have 19 more to go. Okay, we're going to just trim that away and give that one more nice press. Okay, so once we have all of these done, and you're just going to keep doing it the same way, your template plastic will certainly last for all 20, so it's not a problem. Okay, this is in the trash. Okay, so here we have, come on over here, Heidi. Here we have all our fans, our petals put together. So you can put them in any order as long as they stay consistent. I did the blue, plum, gold, green, red. So as you're putting these together, you're going to be making 4 sets of these. Each time I'm going to sew the plum to the blue, the green to the gold, and then I'm going to sew this 2 unit to this 2 unit like that, and then add the last one so that you have a quadrant. But I want to show you how to sew your petals together, because there is a little bit of a trick. So let's take these 5 over to the sewing. And we're going to sew our petals into pairs first. And then our pairs get sewn together, and then the individual. So when I put these together, I'll put the plum on top of the other one, and we just want to make sure, it doesn't matter if they're not perfectly the same up here, it's quite all right, but we want to start sewing down about 1/4 of an inch or so. And what we're going to do is we're going to stitch backwards first, so the thread goes right off the edge, and then we're going to continue to sew 1/4 of an inch all the way down. And the reason we do this is because 2 things. We want our thread buried. We don't want all our tails hanging out between each of the petals. Second is we really want to lock our stitch so that our petals don't open up or come apart. So again, we're going to start down, and we're going to reverse just 1 needle over the edge and come all the way back. It's pretty important that if these 2 don't match perfectly, that you at least get the 2 folds exactly together, because if one's lower than the other, you're going to be sewing, it's harder to turn that point at that time. All right, so let's go over. And I'm going to go ahead and start my needle down a little bit. I'm going to hold my reverse button, and I'm going to sew a couple stitches in reverse until my needle goes over the edge. Okay, so now I'm just going to come forward, keeping that edge right on my 1/4 of an inch mark. It looks like it's going cockeyed, but it is actually coming nice and straight towards me. You want to make sure that that stays a perfect 1/4 of an inch all the way down. Okay. So then I'll lift up my presser foot, pull this one out, and we'll get the next one. And the reason I have to separate them and I can't chain stitch them is because I want to start in a reverse motion. So it's not like I'm starting at the end and sewing and starting at the beginning and sewing. I want to start down a little bit. So again, into the stitch into the seam allowance about 1/4 of an inch. Hold the reverse and take a couple stitches in reverse, and now forward. Okay. So after you get all the pairs done, and you get the pairs put together, and you get the red one on the end, and you have your quadrants. Okay. Let me show you a little something about cutting off these threads. So you remember where I started down here, you want to go ahead and trim that off, and also on the front side, because you don't want your threads hanging around. And we're just going to trim this one. So it's a good thing that they're down in the seam allowance. Oops. Sorry. And it's locked up here. So now these 2 pieces are not going to come apart. All right, same with this one. We'll just trim our thread there, trim our thread here, and now they're together. Okay, so once you get your pairs done and you put all 5 of these together, these 5 go to the next 5, and you create half of your Dresden. So you make 2 halves, and the next thing you know, you have an entire Dresden put together. Okay, so once you get your blue to to the red, blue to the red sewn, blue to the red, blue to the red, you're going to have this circle. And now is the time you want to press. Don't press in between petals or anything like that. We're going to go all in the same direction. I left a couple up so you could see. The tricky part about this is you don't want to just come in with the iron because you'll push these out of shape. All right, so let me show you. So what I'm going to do is start inside the Dresden and just give that just a tiny little pull as I go around. I'm trying not to go anywhere near the tops of the petals. And then I'll go back and I'll give the top of the petals a little bit of a heat. Try not to press too much circular motion. Just keep your iron. I like the nice small iron. It really helps. And again, next one, next one, next one. Okay, and I'm trying not to stretch it too much out of proportion. That's very important that it stays nice and flat. And then if you want, you can even, give it a little press on the top. Okay. Wonderful, wonderful. Okay, next step is to put this on our background fabric, to center it on our background fabric. So we're going to take this, and this is oversized. This is way bigger than 12.5, as you can see. All right, so we're going to trim that down when we're all done. But what I like to do is fold this in half and fold it in half again to get my north, south, east, west centering spots. All right, so let me press this. Give this a little press here and up here. Okay, so now we can center our Dresden on those points of reference. Okay, so I have this one, this one, this one, and here. So I'll take my Dresden, and I remember I started with the blue, so between the blue and the red I have this press line right here, and I want to anchor it right into the center. My blue and red has to be anchored right between this pressed mark, and the blue and red's off a little bit, so let me pull it so that I have my pressed mark right in the point between the blue and the red there, and again between the blue and the red, and just keep managing this around and around until you get all the pieces where they need to go. All right, and then what we're going to do is we're going to just pin these in place onto the background. Put a couple pins in place. If you want to just anchor where the seams are, right here is fine, just to keep that in place. Watch you don't move your little corners. And one more here. And then we're going to make our center, and we're going to anchor our center as well, or pin our center. Okay, keep it nice and flat. All right, so this is ready for applique. And the next thing we want to do is make our center circle. So we're going to take our, it's so sticky. We're going to take our pattern that came with your block, and we want to put it on our tearaway. So this is tearaway stabilizer, and it's going to help. It's going to go under this in a minute to help secure and keep our Dresden from puckering or moving out of place while we sew it down to the background. Okay, but we're also going to use this to turn the edges of our center circle under, so that we have a nice finished edge to work on. Okay, so here I have, you're going to get a 1/3 yard piece, so it's big enough for the Dresden, and then you have a little extra over on this side. All right, so what I'm going to do is take this corner, and I'm going to place it over my pattern, and I'm going to draw right on my stabilizer. Okay, so So just take your pattern and draw your circle. This is actually our sewing line. Okay. All right, so now we have this circle, and we're going to go ahead and take our orange piece of fabric that was in our kit, and we're going to place it right side up with the tearaway on top of it. Okay. So the fabric is right side up and the tearaway with the circle is on top of it. So what I'm going to do is cut this out a little bit. And I'm going to take this over to the sewing machine and we're going to stitch all the way around on the line. And again, I secure it by taking a couple back stitches, forward, back, and locking it both at the beginning and the end of my circle. Okay. So I just line up my line with my needle. I'm going to take a couple stitches forward. Okay, hold on 1 second. I have no thread in my... Sorry. All right, let's try this again, shall we? Let's just check my bobbin's good. Okay, let's give it a shot. All right, let's take if you want, you can certainly put a couple of pins just to hold this circle or this tearaway in place. So I might want to anchor it in a couple little spots just with a pin or two. Just to kind of hold it, because as you turn it, it tends to want to slip out of shape a little bit. All right, so here we go. Hopefully, here we go. All right, take a couple stitches forward, a couple stitches back, right on the line, and then we'll just go ahead and hold this nice and flat with our hands and keep turning. You could stop every once in a while, pick up the foot and turn it, but I have a pretty good hold on this that it's not going to shift out of place. And again, all I'm doing is sewing right on that circle. And I'm at the end, so take a couple locking stitches back and you should be fine. Okay. Next thing you want to do is you want to trim this away about 1/8 of an inch away from the edge. So I'll do that. Love these scissors. These are really, really nice scissors. They cut through template plastics, all kinds of stabilizers, many layers of fabric. They're very exacting scissors. Okay. All right. So next thing you want to do is just take your scissors and open up the stabilizer with a big X mark. So I'll cut a little bit in that direction, and that, so that we have this little X. I'm going to take it and we're going to just flip it around and bring our fabric up through the stabilizer. It's tearaway, so just be a little bit gentle with it and just keep working it. Okay? I'll take my finger and just kind of go around the edge, really making sure that it's out. You can use that tool that came with the Dresden Plate, the Dresden ruler. That works really well too. Once you're happy with the circle, we're going to go ahead and give it a little bit of a press. Okay. And just to flatten it. There we go. So our center circles are made. Okay. We're going to go ahead, finish up this block. I'm going to put our center circle in here, making sure it covers all the edges. And we're going to hold it down with a couple of pins. All right. So now we're going to take our 505 again, our yucky 505. I think I need a new can. This is not going to be pretty. Oh, geez. All right, give that a little bit of 505. Make sure. We're gonna lay our block right down. I don't really care too much about the outside. I just want to make sure that my Dresden is covering the entire area of the stabilizer. Okay. All right. Nice and flat. Oops. There we go. Okay, so all my stabilizer is covering all my points, and I can go ahead and get rid of the excess. And now it's time to applique. Now remember, switch over to an open toe foot, something that doesn't have anything in the way so that you can see, and it's definitely wide enough. It's not a straight stitch foot. You can do zigzags. So you can do a zigzag stitch around here. You can do an applique stitch or a ladder stitch. You can do a satin stitch, whatever you like. I'll take mine down off the wall and you can see what I did. I'm gonna get nice and close. Okay. So what I did is I did a very tiny in blue. You can use whatever color you like. You can use gold or plum. And I just went around and kind of pivoted between each point, holding each petal down to the background. Then I came back and I used the exact same color. These are tiny little stitches. I really didn't want to see it very much. I probably should have used orange, but I just kept the blue on, and I did again these tiny little blanket stitches. You stitch from the outside toward the inside. So each of these fingers is always pointing toward the middle. Once you have your block appliqued down, you want to flip it over and you want to tear away all the stabilizer from behind it. Okay? Once you've torn away all the stabilizer, that's when you want to give it one nice final press. And then the last step is to get your 12.5-inch ruler. And again, the Creative Grids has the grips under them. They work really well. They also have the nice white line, which is exactly the halfway mark on this ruler. Okay? So we're going to put that line between the blue and the red, between the blue and the red, between the blue and the red, and the blue and the red. And once we're happy with that, we're going to trim it on all 4 sides. Pretty simple. A lot of time, so please don't wait to the last minute. You have 20 petals to press and sew together, and then of course there's the whole applique. Okay, so a little bit of a change up from our standard Dresden that we've done in the past, and I hope you like it. And the kits will be available Friday the 11th, and at 10 o'clock. So our hours are 10 to 5 right now, Monday through Friday, and Saturday we're open 10 to 4. If you'd like us to run your kit out, or you wish to purchase the Dresden ruler, the 12.5-inch ruler, threads, stabilizer, whatever it is that you need, you can always call the store, 860-793-6639, and ask for Heidi. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next month.